Hey there, everybody. My name is Corey Jones. I'm with Compassion Works for All, and we're based here in Little Rock, Arkansas. If this is your first time being with us for our meditation at Main Library, welcome. And we do these the second and fourth Monday of the month. Typically, from time to time, we have to reschedule that, but that's typically our schedule. And so we're glad that you're joining us. At Compassion Works for All, we provide mindfulness and meditation programs for folks in jails and prisons. I say that often enough that shouldn't be clunky. But if you would like to learn more about us, you can visit us at compassionworksforall.org and find out ways to support our organization, to volunteer with us. If mindfulness and meditation are something that are important to you and you would like to share that and pass that along, we would love to have you help out with our work. So check us out there at compassionworksforall.org. Today, about 15-20 minutes before we got on here, I was venting and possibly ranting, depending on how you define those things. But I was frustrated and flustered because we're dealing with a situation where, in my opinion, communication would resolve all the issues. And so it's a bit frustrating. So every time I bring it up, I get really worked up and I get frustrated and I start raising my voice and kind of flailing my hands, and I find myself getting very mindless in how I'm dealing with conflict. So about 5 minutes before getting on the call, I said, I'm going to have to talk myself down because I've got to go lead a meditation now. But I decided, you know what? No, let's talk about this. Let's talk about conflict. Let's talk about how to mindfully deal with conflict, because conflict is something that's unavoidable. And if we're always constantly trying to eliminate or try to avoid conflict, we end up making ourselves pretty miserable and going through what at least our Buddhist friends would call suffering. And the self-inflicted suffering can oftentimes be remedied with a mindful way of proceeding through a time of conflict with someone. And obviously conflict ranges. There are some things that are just sort of petty discussions that need to be had. Other times there's a lot of harm and maybe a lot of work that needs to be done. And so I'm reluctant to try to lump all conflict in together, because not all conflict is created the same. But there are, especially throughout just sort of our typical normal day-to-day lives, the little bumps and blips we run into with coworkers, with family, with friends, those kinds of things can be remedied usually with a mindful way of thinking through it. So that's what I want to talk about today for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll get into our meditation time. But just some ideas on how to mindfully navigate through conflict. And the first thing that always comes up with mindfulness is to ground yourself in the present. Conflict usually starts to really take hold of our emotions whenever we keep ourselves in the past or in the future. So whenever we're constantly ruminating over what happened, and we're telling ourselves the story of what happened from our perspective, and we're just playing it over and over and over. And we find another friend who hadn't heard about it, so we go and tell them about it. And then we find somebody else, and oh yeah, did you hear about what happened? And oh man, can you believe it? And we keep ourselves in the past at that moment of conflict, and we allow the negative emotions that are associated with it to manifest themselves in the present. Or we go into the future and we think about, next time I see that person, man, I'm going to stick it to them. I'm going to tell them this, and then I'm going to say this, and then they're going to cry, and then they're going to know I'm right, and it's going to feel good. And we allow ourselves to move into the future rather than in the present. So the very first thing, always, 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 is to get back into the present moment. Forget about the past, not forget about it. Get yourself out of the past because it doesn't exist. Get yourself out of the future because it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the present moment. Become aware of what that's doing to your emotions, to your mental, physical, psychological state of being in the present. It's okay to, this is the second thing, it's okay to think through your thoughts, but don't ruminate. In fact, it's probably really important to think through, what do I want to say to this person? Maybe even write it down. I like to keep sort of a running note on my phone where if I'm driving or if I'm doing something where I can't type, I'm able to use like a voice recording and get my thoughts down to where I can look them over, edit them, consider them. So that's different than ruminating on things. Ruminating is when in a dead time, or when you're driving, when you're in the shower, when you're doing some mindless thing, you just keep playing over and over and over all the things that you're going to say, and you feel those negative emotions coming with it. That's ruminating. We want to avoid ruminating. But mindfully thinking through what the best way is to proceed through conflict is actually a really helpful thing. So do that mindfully without falling into the trap of ruminating. Always assume, this is the third thing, always assume there is more information to learn. That if you're upset and if they're upset, there's got to be a miscommunication there somewhere. There's a breakdown that took place. And so therefore, perhaps you have something that you need to understand that maybe right now you don't understand. And then the fourth thing, see yourself through their eyes. What are they thinking whenever they think about you? What are they seeing when they see you? What are they telling their friends that you did? And that can often be the hardest one, because you assume that they are maliciously and willfully saying false things, because if they agreed with you, or if they were telling the truth, they would automatically agree with your position, and that's not always the case. So try to see things through their eyes. And then the last thing is just make peaceful resolution your goal. Make it your goal to be the one to set the standard for kindness, for gentleness, for empathy, for compassion. If there's going to be a fracture in the relationship because of negative feelings, make sure it's not coming from you, that you are working diligently toward wholeness, happiness, a resolution where the relationship is still intact, if that's necessary and if that's safe. Again, not all conflict is created equal, and so maybe some of those things don't apply across the board, but those are helpful reminders for me, especially today, as we're dealing with conflict, that I need to get out of the past. I need to quit ruminating. I need to ground myself in the present moment. I need to thoughtfully think through what a good way is to proceed. I need to understand how people are seeing me, the eyes through which they're looking at me. And I need to do everything in my power to make sure that there's peace, that there are good feelings toward each other as we speak honestly and openly, but especially as we work toward a resolution. Okay, that's plenty of talking on my part. Thank you for letting me unload some of that today as my own personal therapy session. But let's begin with our meditation time. And as always, posture is a very important part of our meditation. And so you want to be seated in a way where you are comfortable, but also attentive and alert. So maybe have your spine straight, but not rigid. Relax your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Sometimes we carry a lot of stress in our jaw. I often find myself just squeezing my back teeth together in a sort of repetitive pattern. So unclench your jaw. If it helps you, you can close your eyes. If you find that that's too distracting, keep your eyes open, but angle your face downward slightly so that your gaze is toward the floor or toward something down in front of you. Begin to feel yourself settling into your seat. Just let gravity do its work. So again, we're not slouching, but we are settling comfortably. And as we settle into this mindful posture, we'll begin with the sound of 3 bells. So let's ground ourselves in the present moment. Surely there is work that you have to do. There are probably conversations that you need to have. There's always something that could be being done. And right now, we're just going to let those things be. And we're going to bring our minds here into the present. Begin to notice what's happening in your body. Start to notice if you feel any sensations, maybe places that are tight or tense. Maybe places where you especially feel your pulse strong. Sometimes that happens in our hands, in our chest, maybe even in your feet. Be aware of your posture and how you're sitting. Just be attentive to your physical self for another moment. We sometimes like to separate ourselves from our body. We think of our body as this secondary object that's just sort of carrying our brains through life. But in reality, we are our body. And we are our mind. We are lots of things. And so allow this moment of mindfulness to not just take place above the neck, but be mindful with your feet. Be mindful with your legs. Be mindful with your belly. Be mindful with your heart center in your chest. Mindful with your shoulders, your neck, your jaw. Mindful with your ears and your eyes. Mindful with the crown of your head. And now, to continue centering ourselves in the present moment, bring your awareness to your breath. Just gently breathe in through the nose and gently breathe out. And this breathing in and breathing out, these two separate actions, these are the foundation of our mindfulness and the foundation of our meditation practice. The breath is one of the best tools we have to connect our mind and our body, to make our entire physical self one being. And so allow yourself to breathe in and to breathe out in a way that connects your entire body with your mind. Sometimes it helps to say in your mind as you breathe in, I know I am breathing in. And as you breathe out, I know I am breathing out. I know I am breathing in, and I know I am breathing out. Continue to stay with your breath a few more moments. Maintain your mindful posture. Notice how the air feels on the in-breath. And then notice how the air feels on the out-breath. Sometimes it's helpful to give those a word. Like on the in-breath, maybe you think cold. And on the out-breath, you think warm. As we continue to be mindful of our bodies, of our posture, mindful of our breath, let's now become mindful of our thoughts. Have you noticed where your thoughts have drifted? Have they gone to the past? Are they in the future? Are they in some alternate reality somewhere? Or is your mind here in the present? If it's not present with you right now, gently bring it back. Gently bring it into this moment. And we don't want to strain to do this. We don't want to make it something that exhausts us to keep our minds in the present moment, because if we're exhausted by the end of our meditation time, then it hasn't served us well to be in the present. And so we want it to be effortless, without straining. And that doesn't mean our mind will never wander. It just means when we notice, we gently, effortlessly return to the present. If you find that your mind is very busy and very active, what the Buddhists call monkey mind, it's helpful to give the monkey a task. And that task can be to focus on your breath, or it might be to focus on your body, or it might be to focus on what your five senses are telling you about the present. Notice what you hear. Notice what you see. Notice what you smell. Notice what taste is in your mouth. And notice what you feel. And each time your mind wanders off, gently say, "That's okay," and bring it back into the present. And the longer you stay in the present moment, begin to notice the positive emotion it generates to the point where this is where you want to be. Even though your mind might be able to conceive of hundreds of different, more fascinating, exciting thoughts, that here and now is actually where you would like to be. And so grow your awareness now to not just include your thoughts and your mind, but to also include your breath and to also include your body. Become fully aware of your entire self, your entire being. As if you are observing yourself in this moment, on this day, in this time, exactly as you are. Let yourself rest in that complete awareness, settled in the most comfortable way. You are perfectly happy to be with yourself right now. Rest in that happiness for another moment. Feel the joy of being mindful, the joy of being present. Though sometimes it can be difficult, recognize the power that it has over our state of being. And together, as we come to the end of our meditation time, let's join our minds back into the present if they've drifted off again. Take a deep inhale through the nose and breathe out the nose. Let's do this 2 more times. A deep inhale in, and breathe out. And one last time together. Deep inhale and breathe out. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I hope that was as calming and relaxing for you as it was for me. I was getting lost in that a little bit. That felt good and refreshing for me. So I hope that was the case for all of you as well. Thank you for joining us today. And again, I hope that you're able to mindfully navigate through things like conflict, through the things that create sort of these unpleasant sensations and emotions throughout our day. Navigate through those mindfully. And the number one way to do that is to be present, be in this moment as it exists right now. Have a great day, everybody.